Hey, this is Ruth Hartunian Ellenbaugh, otherwise known as Ravings and Cravings, coming to you from a very interesting place today because I get to have with me the one and the only Ruth Marie Hamilton from the country of
Oh, you want
yeah,
Australia?
Australia. Yeah, we are Australian. We're Aussie. Is it Aussie? Are we
Yes,
Aussies?
Aussie. That's
Today we
right.
get to be Aussies. Ruth Marie Hamilton has written children's books, has illustrated children's books. She's got a blog, she's got a YouTube channel. She's going to tell us all kinds of great things. And for those of you who are going to be watching this on YouTube, you will see how beautiful she is. And you will also see her gorgeous blueberry muffins and her cup of tea to offer to us today. Ruth, welcome to WILI.
Hello, it's so lovely to be here. It's so nice to see your face again.
Oh my gosh, it's been, well, if it weren't for Facebook, we wouldn't see each other at all. But
Oh,
when
it's
did we
horrible.
meet? Yeah, when did we meet? Do you know what year that was?
It was 2007. So what, 16 or 17 years ago?
Are you really?
I think so.
And you
We
were
were,
in, yeah.
because we met you the first year we were there. So it was definitely 2007.
Oh my gosh. All right. And
And
you
you
were
were one
in,
of the best things in the whole of America. You were better than Mount Rushmore. Mount Rushmore is great, by the way. I'm not putting it down. I'm just saying I've seen Mount Rushmore and I've seen you, and I like you better.
well, that is kind of you to say that. You are a wonderful young lady. And at that time, you were in high school, right?
That's right.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're not going to do the math. I don't want to embarrass you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So tell people, give yourself a little commercial about the books and the blog and the YouTube where people can find you, and then we'll get on to the muffins in the making.
Well, I write and illustrate children's books, and I have two kinds. I have picture books for small children, and I write those under the name R.M. Hamilton because someone else is writing under Ruth Hamilton, and it was very inconvenient. So I'm R.M. Hamilton. And they're a
Okay.
little bit like Beatrix Potter, a little bit. And then the other books I write are under the name of T.R. Winters, and those are for slightly older children. They're Greek myths retold, so they're easy to read.
Okay. And then what do you write about in your blog?
I write short stories. I started it because I wanted to, actually want, most of my friends are overseas. We're starting to get a few in Australia, but the bulk of my friends are either live in America or they live in New Zealand. So it was a bit lonely. And then I thought, oh,
Mhm.
I could start a blog and that way I can keep in touch. So I write a lot of short stories. And then I started putting up pictures of my baking on Facebook. And people said, oh, can we have the recipe? And I thought, well, it's a lot of work to write up a recipe. I might as well put it on the blog.
Yeah, yes. And when you introduce us to the things that you created, you are very Victorian looking, which is very cool because, I live in a neighborhood where there are a lot of Victorian homes, and there used to be home tours that were Victorian. So it's a part of our history here in this corner of the world too. So I think that's
Oh,
very
it's
cool.
so pretty. The architecture where you live is so pretty.
Yes, it is. It is.
Really miss it.
So we met when your dad came here to work on his degree at the University of Connecticut and
That's right.
brought you and your three siblings with you.
Mhm.
Oh, and the wife, of course.
Yes, yes, he definitely brought mum. He doesn't tend to go anywhere without mum.
Yeah, of course not. And so let's fast forward to today and
Mhm.
talk about why you started baking and what was the impetus behind all these ideas.
Well, it's actually quite a disgusting story. When I was a teenager, I had very, very bad acne. I had terrible acne,
Mm-hmm,
and we just couldn't get it to go away. And then I sort of clicked that it might be dietary. So I started eliminating certain foods,
mm-hmm,
and some things didn't work. But then what happened is when I cut out dairy and I cut out cane sugar, refined white sugar, the acne
mm-hmm.
started to clear up, and I've never gone back.
I mean, What was it like to transition from, eating that way to now learning a new style of eating?
It was really hard because initially, um, it was really, really hard because I didn't know how to create a dessert or a treat that was equally delicious to something with dairy and sugar. So it really meant
Mm.
that if we went somewhere, I would just have to sort of stick to sort of apple slices or something. And if you're doing that and everyone around you is having delicious big pieces of cheesecake, you feel quite miserable.
So sorry. So sorry. That's so sad. So
It
tell us
was, it
about
was very sad.
those blueberry muffins look like they're big enough for 4 people to eat, though. Those are
Yes, that's
huge.
quite a problem actually because I made them very large and then I should be making them small because mum and me just keep eating them. But to make them smaller is on the to-do list, but we don't really want to.
Right. So tell us about the recipe that you used or that you created the
Well,
recipe.
actually, this particular recipe, I was having a dream of all things, and I was throwing blueberries and maple syrup in a bowl. And when I woke up, I thought, that's a really good idea because two of the things I first tried in America were
Mm.
blueberries. I had my first blueberry in Connecticut and also
Wow.
maple syrup.
Oh, that's amazing.
And it was revolutionary. So when I thought, well, I'll make a recipe that's inspired by staying in Connecticut, I thought,
Uh-huh.
well, there are other things I associate with Connecticut. So I put coffee in them and I put vanilla and obviously cinnamon because you can't really have something American without cinnamon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, I bet that smelled so good baking, huh?
It does. And did you know this? Well, you probably do because you've done a lot of travel. But have you noticed that America has a real, like the country, actually has
Uh-huh.
a really nice smell to it?
The country?
Yeah, the country. Like when you
Mm.
come into America, America smells very specific. It's a very specific smell. And sometimes we get whiffs of it in Australia and we're like, oh, that smells like America.
Oh my goodness. What is it? Can you describe that?
Oh, yes, it's so good. It's vanilla and
Oh,
cinnamon and apple and nutmeg. And you put all those things together and it smells like America.
that's apple pie.
Oh, well, it's also America. And someone should make a scented candle called The Fragrance of America, and it would just sell and sell and sell.
That's a great idea. So it was necessity that kind of drove you to start creating recipes. So if I can I find your recipes anywhere?
Yes, you can go on my blog, Me and the BFG, and there's a section on there about well, I call it Ruth's recipe.
Okay. And what other recipes do you have on your blog?
Well, I've got a pumpkin muffin, and I've got a quiche, and I've got a lemon pie, and actually, I've got a few things on there. I'm trying to put more on there as I go along, and when I bake something, actually take notes on it and then turn it into a recipe rather than just making it and forgetting
Mhm.
about it. Mm.
So what was the first thing that you created when you like were going from full on cane sugar and dairy to like where you are now? What was like your first experiment there?
Um,
Do you
my
remember?
brother's birthday, yes, I remember. I'm not allowed to forget it. I made my brother a birthday cake. And instead of being grateful that I was trying to do something nice to him, I
Uh-huh.
mean, it did taste disgusting. I forgot to put any sort of sweetener in it, or and I think I put about half a cup of baking soda in it, and it was very
Oh,
disgusting.
oh, oh,
Never
oh,
stop
oh,
shutting,
baking soda.
never shuts up about it, and it's been 10 years, and he needs to let it go. It was disgusting. It was so disgusting, Ruth.
Okay, so that was your first try, first
I
try.
was huge failure. Yeah.
Fast
And
forward
then
to now.
I can't really remember the first success I had. I can remember lots of failures. I made the most disgusting pastries that just tasted like, I don't know if there's a word for how they tasted, but it was very disgusting. Oh,
Well, it wouldn't, that would be like maybe how Australia smells. I don't know.
no, no, Australia smells like eucalyptus.
Oh, okay. All right. Eucalyptus there.
Everything, everything in Australia is eucalyptus. They clean with eucalyptus. They scent things with eucalyptus. There's eucalyptus everywhere. I'm surprised they don't run their vehicles on eucalyptus oil. That's how much they love it.
Well, maybe it's coming. Might be coming.
Maybe,
So
maybe.
what do you have? You have a cup of something there to drink with your blueberry
I
muffins.
have I have mint tea. I would usually have coffee, but I had my coffee very early this morning to get ready for this. And if I have too
Yeah.
much coffee, I get quite hyperactive.
Well, we don't want that. So it must be a herbal tea or something.
Yeah, it's just mint tea.
So are you kind of a tea freak? Like you should only drink certain teas with certain baked goods or anything like that?
No, I'm more of a tea enthusiast, and if there's tea available, I will just drink and drink and drink it.
Okay, so it doesn't matter if it's caffeinated or not. If
I
it's
think
tea, it's
caffeinated, generally speaking, I think the more caffeinated, the better. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that from a health point of view, but
it's your
that is the
opinion.
reality.
It's okay, and it's your opinion. That's all right.
True.
Tell us about some of the other recipes that you have. Like, what are some of the other, like, what are your staples? What are your main core ingredients that you use in, say, most of your recipes?
Oh, that's such a good question. So I usually use honey as a sweetener, but I've
Uh-huh.
started working with maple syrup because we're living in Australia now, and New Zealand is a long way from anywhere. So
Mm-hmm.
things can get quite expensive by the time they get down there. But
Mm-hmm.
Australia's, well, it doesn't seem to be quite as expensive in Australia. So I am using maple syrup these days. But
Mm-hmm.
usually I use honey and I use oil. And I'm not really picky on the oil. I don't want an overly flavored oil for a dessert because otherwise it just, if you use a very, very strong flavored oil, um,
Mm-hmm.
it just tastes weird. And I don't like that.
So do you have a certain honey? Like, do you ever use the agave stuff or do you use regular honey or?
Um, I do I tend to use I just use a regular floral honey that you can get here in Aldi's.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is though with honey, I do find honey quite interesting. Different
Uh-huh.
honeys, obviously, they have very different flavors depending on where the
Yes.
bees get the pollen, which is
Mm-hmm.
why I say with my recipes, they're more of a guide than an actual formula because and it's the same with maple syrup. But when you use a refined white sugar, you're just getting a
Mm-hmm.
sweetener and you can just add your flavors to it. But if you're using honey or using maple syrup, depending
Mm-hmm.
on the pollen and the honey or the soil the maple tree was grown in, that
Mm-hmm.
affects the flavor. So you have to adjust. So you might have a maple syrup that's got very strong vanilla notes. You might want to ease back on your vanilla essence. So you just have to taste as you go when you're using an alternative raw sweetener, I think.
So are your recipes like suggestions? Are they exact? Like, do they have measurements? How does that work?
I write them out as a recipe, so they're very exact. You can just follow
Okay.
them exactly as you want.
Mm-hmm.
But what I say just what I'm saying is that I don't know what honey or maple syrup you're going to use. So when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to flavoring them, I would suggest just tasting the batter and saying, oh, maybe this needs a little bit more maple syrup, or maybe this needs a little bit more vanilla
Mm-hmm.
essence. But if you do exactly what's on there, you will get something that will taste pretty good. But I think that I mean, well, you would understand this. Cooking's an art, so you have to be. You would understand this because you're a musician. It's like when you play an instrument, you have to listen to yourself, and I think when
Yes.
you cook, you have to taste and adjust. It's
Yeah.
just the same thing, really.
It's true. That's very true. So how do you define dairy? Because like everybody says it's, there's different definitions. What are you eliminating when you're eliminating the dairy part of things?
The stuff that comes from the udder of the cow. So if you have to get it by milking a cow, I don't touch it.
Okay. Is butter count as dairy?
Yes, because that comes from cream, which they skim off the milk.
All right. And then does eggs count as dairy?
No, because it comes from a chicken. So
All
it's the
righty.
lactose that gives me the problem. It's that I think there's something in the cow's milk. So
Mm-hmm.
butter is a dairy product, cream is a dairy product, milk is a dairy product, sour cream is a dairy product, cheese is a dairy product. Anything that's based from the product that when they go and milk the cow and they take the milk out of the cow, that's dairy.
Mm-hmm. So have you experimented with any of those nut milks or anything like that?
Oh yeah, we definitely use a lot of nut milks. We use quite a lot of soy milk, but I'm I'm reticent to base a full recipe around a milk substitute because it doesn't actually taste like milk. So that's the thing when I make a recipe.
Hmm.
And I have tried. I have definitely tried a recipe where I
Hmm.
get a traditional recipe and I switch out the butter for oil, I switch out the sugar for honey, and I switch out the dairy for soy milk, and it's disgusting. So what I've found is you just have to you really have to um, work with the ingredients you've got and then be very
Hmm.
creative. I don't find it successful to try and replicate a dessert that, look, the reality is if you're going to make a cheesecake, you should
Uh-huh.
probably use dairy products. And if
Hmm.
you're not going to make a cheesecake, you should probably sit down and come up with something that's delicious in its own right, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you ever use any of the like alternative yogurts at all? Because like I know I saw like coconut yogurt and they're non-dairy yogurts. Have you seen those things?
I have tried them occasionally, but uh, it's interesting when you cut out dairy, there's a lot of
Hmm.
things you can eat, and when you cut out cane sugar, there's a lot of things you can eat. But when you cut out cane sugar and dairy, you'd be surprised how many of those things become, because a lot of those alternative yogurts, they're very high in sugar. Some of them aren't, but some of them are.
Oh, true. And I mean, they all have a certain kind of different consistency too, so
Mm.
that would affect your final
Yeah,
product,
yeah,
right?
exactly, exactly.
So, can you break open like one of the muffins and
Oh
hold
yes,
it up
I can.
to the camera so we can see like what it looks like? Because that would be very interesting. Oh,
A
bring
very
it, hold it up,
crumbly.
hold it up, hold it up a little more.
Is that my camera?
Yeah, yeah, right there. Good. Go ahead
So
and break it open.
it's full of blueberries,
Ooh, that looks awesome.
and then
Uh,
it's got a nut and crumble topping to it.
oh, I think I can smell it from here.
Oh, I hope you can. No, no, you can just smell America. You just smell America, and America smells yummy. And now I want to be in America.
It looks it looks kind of cakey in consistency. Is it cakey? Is it denser? I mean, what's the consistency of the
It's
dough?
quite moist. It's quite moist. I like my baking quite moist. I don't
I
really
do
like
too.
dry. I like it to be moist. And the other thing
Yeah.
is that these are, because they've got a fairly high oil content in them, they stay soft for a few days. They don't really go stale, which I think is a benefit because I do not like a stale muffin myself personally.
Yeah, I like it. Well, I like them toasted because I like the crunchy.
Mm.
So what did you put on top? You said nut something?
So I made a mixture of nuts and blueberries and a bit of maple syrup and cinnamon. And then what I did is I used corn flour because that gives it a different texture and I'm on a bit of oil and I mixed that up. And when the muffins were semi-baked, I loaded it on the top.
Oh, so like it's kind of crunchy on top.
It is. It's definitely got crunch. So it's got a very, very soft inside,
Ooh.
but the top's got a very crunchy because I like the contrast. I think
Oh yeah.
texture is a
Okay.
big part of cooking too, not just flavor. You've got to have the texture right.
All right. So like when you come back to America to visit, you're making those for me.
Oh, that would be a delight because your blueberries will be local and your maple syrup will be a lot more local than the stuff in Australia. They'll taste
Well,
amazing.
and you know what? This year we actually planted 4 blueberry bushes in
Oh,
our yard, so we could just pick them whenever we wanted them, which was really awesome. And
mm.
I will make you sloppy joes.
Woo, yeah,
Since I guess that's the first thing you ate when you came to my house many years
it is.
ago.
It was very memorable and it was good. And then we went and watched Ratatouille with your kids in the side room.
Oh my goodness. I guess the food thing kind of runs deep, doesn't it, Ruth?
Oh, it's so lovely.
It
We had
is.
such a good time visiting your house. That was so special.
Well, I appreciate, thank you so much. Thank you for saying that. So I'm recording this we're on the Thursday night here in Connecticut, and it is Friday morning there where you are in
That's
Australia.
right. I'm in your future. Woo!
Yeah. What what kind of I'm gonna just kind of give you a little opening and say, what would you like to talk about as far as your baking? What do you think you'd like people to know?
I think I'd like people to know that when you create a recipe, there are two questions I always ask. And the first one is is this going to nourish me? Because I don't think it's ideal when food makes us sick. But the second
Mhm.
question is it going to be delicious? Because I think realistically, if you
Mm,
just focus on food being healthy and nourishing, that's
yeah,
not very sustainable. There's a certain level of psychology that goes into nourishing yourself, and that means listening to your body, and
true.
what might nourish someone else might actually be poison for you. So be sensitive to what your body requires, but also when you're in the kitchen, be very creative and make sure that while you're nourishing your body, you're not forgetting about your taste buds.
Oh yeah. I mean, from 2007 when we first met, right? The
Mm.
world, the gluten-free world, the alternative
Mm.
kind of diet world, it was a sad world, I think, and the flavor wasn't there, the
Oh yeah,
enjoyment. And I mean
and
now
the
it's like,
texture.
yeah, and now I mean you can enjoy so many things because
Mm.
we have so many choices of the consistencies and the flavors, the extracts that are out there. I'm just curious, have you ever made anything with ginger in it?
I love ginger, actually. I've got a ginger apple cake that I'm working on. I haven't completely
Ooh,
perfected it, so it's not on the blog yet, but it will be on the blog when I get it right.
that sounds awesome. Ginger and apple. And of course it's apple picking season here.
Oh, I'm so jealous. I know I'm so jealous. I love fall in New England, and now we're going into late spring and it's starting to get so hot. And I see all these pictures online of the fall and the pumpkins, and I'm actually quite envious.
I have my scarf on.
Oh, I love cold weather.
Me too. Me too. I would give you my summer if you would like it, but I would keep
I would
fall.
not trade. I would not trade.
No
But I
trading
would
allowed.
be willing. I would be willing to go through summer if it meant I was in Connecticut and I could come around to your place and see you.
Okay, well life is full of compromises.
That's true. And can I just say, American watermelon is so far, I mean, I've only lived in 3 countries, but so far the best in the world.
Really?
So superior, Ruth. It's
Huh?
so good.
Hey, I wonder if you could create something with watermelon in it.
No, last year it was all the rage in Sydney. Was this thing called watermelon cake, but it looked really, and it was very fashionable, but it just looked quite weird to me because it was like a sponge cake, and then they put slices of watermelon in it, and I just
Oh,
thought it sounded a bit odd. It didn't really appeal to me, to be honest.
no. I wonder if you could use it like if you strained out some of the liquid and made it and had it kind of a more like an applesaucey consistency.
I like that idea because I
And then
think slices of
yeah,
it with sponge cake just sounds a bit wrong.
I mean the sponge cake is just gonna sop up all the water. It's
That's
gonna
what
be
I would.
like a sponge.
And then I thought, how would you, like, can you imagine cutting it? How would you cut that nicely? I feel like it's a table manner disaster. You go in and the sponge cake cuts nicely, and then you start hitting the watermelon with your fork and just do it nicely.
Yeah, I don't think that would work, but I think straining the watermelon and then making it look kind of a consistency of applesauce and maybe adding a little pureed fruit so that the consistency was like applesauce and then substitute it for any time that you need applesauce.
I
I'm
did have in New Zealand a really good ice block where they did watermelon, strawberry, and mint. And it was a really hot day and it was so refreshing. It was a beautiful combination.
oh, that would be refreshing. That would be
It was.
wonderful.
It was a little unexpected, the mint in it, but it was good.
Ooh, that sounds really good. So as you head into summer, how are you going to be doing as far as like you're going to have to fire up your oven and everything?
No, I probably do a lot of potato salads and things that in cold meat and things that we can prepare in the morning before the heat really gets up, and then because
Yeah.
otherwise you don't want to eat when the evening comes around. It's like you're just like, no, I can't.
Well, unless it's blueberry muffins.
Well, that's true. You see, that's the problem. If you don't cook something properly in the morning, you just eat blueberry muffins for tea, and that's not a long term. As a long term strategy, that's not. It's very fun, but it's probably not very wise.
Right, right. Well, when you write your recipes, are they like, can I read them? Are they like the temperatures? Are you gas mark, or is there any conversion I would have to do for?
Oh, I do the conversion. So I put it in
Okay.
Celsius because we use Celsius down here, but I always put in brackets for my American buddies. I always put it in Fahrenheit.
Okay, good. That means that I'm in then, because
Yes,
then I don't have to convert
absolutely.
it.
That- We
Well,
wouldn't like
Ruth,
to exclude you.
I our time is like so gone, and it's sad.
Oh,
I
it just
know, I know.
away. I'm so
I
enjoying this.
Well, I have appreciated your taking your time to be on the program today on Ravings and Cravings. It is sponsored by Elm's Package Store here in Willimantic, which we are grateful for. I'm going to be on every Monday here at 5:05 p.m. So your program is going to be airing in a couple days. It has been a joy. You are a wonderful young lady, and I can't wait for that ginger apple recipe.
Oh, I have to come to America and make it for you. And you've definitely gained a listener in Australia because I was aware you were doing it, but it sort of flew over my radar. But I was downstairs doing something and listening to you yesterday, and it was jolly good. I thought, I can't believe I haven't been listening to the show every week. But this will be rectified, Ruth. This will be rectified.
As God is my witness, right?
Right?
All right. Well, this is Ruth Hartunian Ellenbaugh signing off here on Ravings and Cravings and Good Company WILI.